Right, there we go. Hello, welcome to episode 435 of the Self-Help Podcast with me, Edward Lamb. I'm your good pal, Sean Orford. How are you doing, Sean?
Well, we're doing very well. How are you?
I'm good. Apologies for a little bit of background noise. We're talking about pets today, aren't we? And sparked by the new addition to our family, a little Mini Cooper. Get it? The dog. So yeah, he might come over and say hello if you're watching on YouTube in a bit, but he's that settled into the life of that we lead and me working from home that he's not that excited by me being around anymore. So he's off doing his own thing.
Now I'm being put under pressure to have a dog, and one of my problems is I work, and I mean, so also people do come to my consulting room here, kind of thing. So does he leave you to get on with your work?
He does actually. Yeah, he's really good so far. He's slotted in quite nicely. I mean, I'm reluctant to leave him on his own too much because he's still working his way into planet Earth, really. So I don't like to go to the office that much. So, but he's that small that I'll be able to take him to the office at some point as well. So, but he's not really allowed out yet because he hasn't had his vaccinations.
All right.
But yeah, so far, man, he's cool. He knows when to have a little bit of fun and he knows when to chill out and have a lie down. So, but we'll come on to all that and the kind of the ups and downs of having a pet and a dog in particular, and the kind of therapeutic upsides that they have, because it's quite an interesting world, as we will discover, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, a little shout out for the website for those that are new, liveinthepresent.co.uk. Go on and check out all the show notes. Sean's written a blog post to accompany this podcast too. Have a look at that. Before we start the episode, Sean, how's life on planet Earth? We were joking before we came on air that you're not really kind of winding down. You kind of preparing for the mayhem ahead.
That's when we were about to talk to each other on the phone. I end up with another company online asking me to do stuff for them, which is, and I think it's very much the flavour of the moment because of what's going on. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety going on out there.
Yep.
And people are much more aware of mental health now, so they're trying to do something about it, which I guess is good. But
I guess it is. We're all about. I guess. I mean, this is a bit off topic now, but we are the self-help podcast, aren't we? So we're trying to. I mean, assuming we didn't put too much thought into the name early on, but I guess we're trying to create a situation for people where they can help themselves and not rely on therapists long term. Some people obviously will always need kind of a bit of backup here and there.
But the magic is that when you get it right, especially when you're using mindfulness tools and things like that, you can become your own therapist in reality. Now, yes, you might need some help from now and then on things, but it's like basically you can moderate yourself once you understand how it works.
Yeah, interesting times, because I mean we kind of did an emergency crisis episode last week because in the UK things were going a bit nuts with the fuel supplies and stuff like that, or it was a kind of bit of a manufactured fake fuel crisis because there was enough fuel, there was just too much demand. But
the whole thing, and I'm not going to get into Brexit again, but just the whole thing seems to be unraveling with the French announcing today they're talking about interrupting our electricity supplies.
Right.
Because we're not being nice to them, so they're not going to be nice to us.
Very childish. It's all very childish, isn't it? Very, strange times. But yeah, I mean, last night we had a Facebook crisis because Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp went down for not every now and again it happens for 20 minutes, half an hour, but this was like, I think it was about 6 to 8 hours or something. So
6 hours. Oh my God. Yeah.
So it was interesting.
But
I mean,
if you're reliant on those services for your business, or if you were reliant on it to support people, it could have been quite a damaging 6 hours. People.
Well, it could actually. So for all the joking aside about, isn't it nice for a bit of peace and quiet? There are some businesses that I know that I kind of help out that they sell directly through Instagram and they speak to their audience is all on Facebook. So
Mhm.
Joking aside, it was another little. We had the fuel crisis the week before, which kind of exposed how reliant we are on that stuff. And last night we've
Mhm.
had this little blip in communications, which I'm not like conspiracy theorist at all, but I guess we do need to just have a little think about how reliant we are on this stuff and what we do when things go wrong.
Mhm. Yeah,
Strange, eh?
crazy world. It
Crazy.
feels like we have some big lessons to learn. Um,
Yeah, it does, but we'll get there, what by hook or by crook. But let's talk about pets and the joy of pets, because I introduced him last week actually via YouTube, so you could see him. I'll try and remember to stick a photo in the
yeah,
email in the blog post,
yeah.
so people can say hello to Cooper. Cooper the dog. Oh, he's just over there. He's just chewing on a bit of wood, but he doesn't want to come and say hello. But I had a dog when I was a kid. We felt like we weren't really actively looking to get a dog. We kind of had it at the back of our minds, but a little opportunity came our way. Someone, a friend of a friend, knew that there was one available, so we went, yeah, go for it. And he's cool, man. He's just a great little bundle of joy. The kids love him. You know, we've got time to slot him into our lives and look after him. And you know, he's small enough to kind of go anywhere with us, even on a bicycle. He's been on his first bike trip at the weekend. So yeah, already I'm starting to see the good and the bad of dog and pet ownership.
So
But yeah,
what's the bad?
well, the bad is that I was up at 5 o'clock this morning because he was yapping away downstairs. So either he didn't get enough exercise yesterday, or he was hungry, or he needed to go to the loo. I can't exactly, not exactly sure. But you know, you have to put the time and the effort in, don't you? And it's not all plain sailing. What's your history with pets, Sean? And your
Didn't have any when I was at home, but once I left home, I've always had cats and dogs, and obviously I had the farm, and I had 3 dogs there, and 2 cats and a wild rabbit that lived in a big Belgian black thing,
Mhm.
and I've always had them around, and this is the first time in my life I haven't actually had an animal to look after really, and we were at Robert's house the other day, and when we were coming out, the lady who lives opposite had got these 2 things that were like cuddly bears that were a cross between a Shih Tzu and a poodle, which made me wonder what the name was, how you'd put those 2 together. But there you go. But the thing then Bree's saying, "Oh, we could have one of those. We could have one of those." But what that means is she'd go out to the hospital, and I'd be here looking after said dog, and unless I was going out to any of the factories or something. And it is. I mean, a dog is for life. It's a commitment, and it's whether you can actually realistically, for me, see clients and do stuff and have a little dog as well.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I think the number of kind of dogs in particular that have kind of been purchased or bred in during the pandemic, especially, has kind of shot up. So there's a lot more people now
Mm.
had a bit of cash lying around, or maybe they didn't think they would be traveling as much, so they had more time. So it'll be interesting to see as things get back to normal, inverted commas, how I don't know, yeah, how people kind of, if there is an increase in kind of dogs that are being passed on to other people, or I don't know, left in a plastic bag somewhere for someone else to find and the RSPCA to take care of, because it's a big commitment, you know. I mean, if Cooper is kept fit and healthy, and we look after him, which we will, he could and perhaps should live for 15 years, a little bit longer, maybe, you know, if we so that's a long chunk of time in it.
Yeah, 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 and I think there's 2 things. One is people don't realise what a commitment it is, but once you've actually had another person living in your house with 4 legs for 15, 18 years, and then they suddenly pop off, then it does leave a huge hole.
Yeah.
And I've loads of times working with people, older ladies that have a lap dog, that doesn't require a lot of exercise, but is their kind of cuddly mate and friend and that kind of stuff. And when they die, it can be really devastating for old people.
Yeah, well, let's get onto the good stuff really about dogs and pets in general, because there's a couple of things I'll link to in the show notes about the kind of origin of the domesticated dog in particular. And I think you can go back as much as 30,000 years to find history of humans domesticating dogs, not as for kind of work purposes, but also for companionship, because they were just kind of the perfect size and kind of for certain breeds were.
If you think about it, human beings, dogs, pigs, and rats have all grown up together throughout evolution. And the key about us all is we'll all eat anything. Yeah. And when I had the farm, I had a dog, Brandy, who was a beautiful person, but he used to like Brussels sprouts. And he would eat Brussels sprouts. He actually got into a whole sack of Brussels sprouts once and wrecked it and those. But the wind that came out the other end on Brussels sprouts was unbelievable.
I can imagine. Okay, yeah.
But this is interesting, right? It's in Wales. I go to the RSPCA and I end up coming out with Brandy. And he's an abandoned dog. He spoke Welsh. So I had to learn some Welsh to actually talk to him, because if I spoke to him in English, he looked at me like I was bonkers. So bed in Welsh is gwely. So if I say gwely, go to bed. If I say bed, he looked at me like a man.
Yeah.
Or Athlan key, our dog, go, that kind of stuff. And he could speak Welsh fine, but not English.
Yeah. I've read a little bit of that. I mean, I guess dogs are interesting because, I mean, we don't want to kind of put off other. I've got a couple of guinea pigs as well that we've had for a few years now, and they're great little creatures actually. So they were kind of a little test bed for our kids to see how they got on with them and that kind of thing. But there's a lot of cat owners out there. I've never owned a cat, but there is something about that kind of connection between a dog and human being that is hard to beat, really, isn't it? There's a kind of real deep sense of companionship there if done right.
Yeah.
And it goes.
And well, to me, you get to the point where I don't see things like dogs and cats as being animals. I see them as people. You know what I mean? And because when you get to know a dog, and the dog gets to know you, and the levels of communication that go on that are non-verbal, it's a person. It's not like that's an animal and I'm a human being. It's like we're all in this together.
Yeah, there's a posh word for that, right? You say it because I'll pronounce it wrong.
Which one? Not the anthropomorphism one.
Yeah, anthropomorphism. There you go. Yeah, and you see it in movies, don't you? And in cartoons and stuff like we watched the Peter Rabbit movies quite recently. Things like Paddington Bear as well, where we kind of humanize animals, and so it makes it gets you thinking about what's different about a dog that makes me not want to eat it. And in some countries they do eat dogs, right? So and which obviously to us is a bit strange, but then when you think about it in a deeper way, it shouldn't be that strange, really. If you're used to eating chickens and turkeys and pigs, then eating a horse.
That's like the whole ding dong that went on when there was horse mince in the cow mince. Everybody went bonkers,
Yeah.
If you're going to eat dead body, it's dead body, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, so do you have any clients or people you've worked with that kind of have either struggled with the loss of a pet, or you've kind of recommended a pet as a companion to?
Always round, yes, both. And the other thing that I've had with dogs is I've had hearing dogs with people, because we think of dogs for the blind, but dogs for the deaf are really good. There was a lovely lady I worked with who could lip read really well, but was as deaf as a post. And her dog, it's like if someone rang the doorbell, he'd come and get her and say, come on, all that kind of stuff. So he looked after that. And I've got someone I work with who's got a seizure dog, who she has an epilepsy that when it comes on her is like on her and she's gone. But the dog, and this is the weird thing, the dog knows when she's going to have a fit before she does. So the dog will tell her that she needs to get to a place of safety, and we'll get her settled down. And then we'll actually sit over and protect her and look after her until she comes back round again.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. I mean, it's not to be overlooked, is it? I'm going to link to a blog post about 6 ways that pet ownership can benefit your mental health. So it's quite obvious stuff, to be honest. But yeah, there are kind of proven kind of stress and anxiety reduction benefits to having a pet at home. You know, dogs are one thing, yeah, but I mean, it could be, you know, I've really enjoyed having our 2 guinea pigs for the last 2.5, 3 years. They're just great little creatures, you know, and you know, you feed them once a day and give them water and clean them out once every week or 2. And you can, I mean, who knows, maybe they hate being alive, but my general, the feedback from them that I get from their little squeaks and the way they run around, they quite appreciate it, and that they quite like being part of our little crew.
Yeah. It's funny, the whole thing with animals. I worked with a guy, he was a war vet. He was living in a quarry in Wales, and like an abandoned quarry in a caravan. And he had, in this caravan, he lived with 2 Malamutes. Have you seen a Malamute?
No.
They're the biggest dog that you can get. They're the nearest to a wolf. I mean, they're absolutely enormous. I'd go into the caravan, and this one particular one, who was the friendly one, would come and put his paws on my shoulders, and I was looking up at his head. He was huge, you know.
Wow.
And this guy, who was like ex-paratrooper, would have to roll them on their backs every week to make them submit, so that he was still the boss.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because if they,
and he literally forced them and roll them on their backs. Amazing.
So, because if a switch flicks in something, a creature that size, it's they're in charge.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You wouldn't stand a chance at all. I mean, this thing was as near as to a wolf as you get, but I swear it was bigger than a wolf.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Amazing. Yeah, we were at a shopping centre last weekend, and they weren't Saint Bernards, but they're quite similar to Saint Bernards, and there was 2 of them, and in fact my uncle used to have two of those big, massive things, and that's
Are they Pyrenean mountain dogs?
Yeah, something like that. Massive things, but I mean, amazingly soft and docile and like really friendly. But they must need so much food and attention, and you literally, I mean, forget about getting them around on the front of a bike. you do need you would need a Range Rover to kind of shift these things around.
No. You just need a cart, and then you harness them to the front, and they get you around.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's right, man. Yeah, they could probably pull a Range Rover actually if you strap them on. But incredible creatures, like, but yeah, all shapes and sizes.
There was a lady on the Isle of Wight had 3 of those, right? And they would each eat 6 pounds of meat a day.
Wow,
that's a lot of meat. Imagine what comes out the other end and what you've got to do with it.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's why we quite like Cooper. Really, he's quite a low maintenance, and he's still kind of getting the hang of knowing where to do his business. He's getting quite good at making sure he's outside now. But when he does do it inside, it's not much of a job to clear it up, really. Thankfully. But yeah, fair play, man, to the people that have those massive things. But yeah, do you ever actually kind of nudge people in the direction of a pet if they're living on their own, to get as a cure for like loneliness and to give a bit of purpose?
We look at all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and sometimes if you go to the like the RSPCA rescue centres, you'll find that there's a mass of dogs there, and if you let someone go in there, they tend to connect with a dog. There's a connection, and like if it's going to work, the 2 of them connect together. And it's quite funny when you see that happen, that recognition.
Yeah, I bet it's beautiful. I mean, it's funny how people have different types of dogs that they like. When you say that you've got a certain kind of dog, you can kind of think people, oh, that's not my kind of dog. So we all have our own little, Cooper's awesome because he's small and he's low maintenance, and he's got that playful side to him, but he'll fall asleep on you as well, on your shoulder or any part of you that he feels comfortable in. So, but for some people, that's not the kind of pet they're after, is it? So yeah, different.
No.
Yeah, and also within the article that I read, for certain, for not for just children, but people of all ages with autism or ADHD, that kind of thing. I think a pet can be quite a useful addition.
You see, I think we underrate intuition in Western thought, but intuitive contact between people is much higher than we realize. But intuitive contact between you and an animal is also there. You don't need language to talk to a dog. Interesting, these Malamutes, this guy worked with, they didn't respond to voice commands at all. But if he inverted his head or did something with his hand, they'd sit down.
Wow.
I mean, so everything was that kind of body language talk. But an animal will come up to you if you're feeling down and will, connect with you, come and check you're okay. Did you see that picture? I did put it up on Facebook, and then I saw it come up on something else as well, of an orangutan. One of the researchers was stuck in a bog, and the orangutan is leaning down to help him out of the bog.
Oh, wow, no.
Yeah, and the orangutan was actually helping the researcher, which I thought was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, beautiful.
And that the orangutan and the guy had obviously bonded. And I think that's very real. And the idea that some animals eat other animals, don't they? So that it must be hard for an antelope to bond with a leopard, maybe. Because there wouldn't be that kind of connection there. But you do see things where things like that do happen, where there's a bird and a cat living together, and they're looking after each other and they're fun, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know.
Cooper.
Yeah, that's Cooper rattling his bowl over there. I don't know if he's trying to tell me something, but
demanding food.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of just started to introduce Cooper to the guinea pigs as well, just to see how they get on. And
how do they get on?
Well, at the moment they're a similar size, so I think Cooper's he's kind of acting all tough when they're behind the cage, when they're in their cage or their hutch. But when you actually put him right next to them, he's not quite as not quite as tough all of a sudden. So, and I don't want to freak them out, and I don't want to kind of scare them. So, but we'll bring them in the winter when that gets here properly, so that they'll be in the hutch will be inside. So hopefully they'll make it. Because I remember when I was a kid, we had a dog, a Jack Russell, and we had hamsters, and Sweep, our dog, used to get on really well and was really protective over our little pet hamster. I always thought that was quite cute,
Yeah. Well, somewhere I've got a picture of 3 dogs, 2 cats, and a big black Belgian hare, all lying in a pile, asleep in front of the fire, and they're all just lying on top of each other asleep. Yeah. And they used to all get on fine. But it's interesting for me because we break animals down into categories. So we have the animals of nature that we look at on David Attenborough programs, and we go on safari to watch or that kind of stuff. So, and we give them a special kind of status. And then we have the ones that are the ones that we think shouldn't be here, like the vermin. And what is it that makes an animal vermin? I mean, a rat is actually, if you actually have ever handled a rat or get to know rats, they're fine people, they're okay. They're trying to do what everybody else does. They're trying to raise their kids and have a full belly. The fact that they like to come and empty our bins, people go, oh my God, they're disgusting. But they're just rats doing their stuff, So we have this kind of nature. We have the vermin that all need to be got rid of. And then we have food, which, depending on which country you're in, I mean, I guess some people eat rats and think they're yummy. That kind of, like I said, people eat dogs, cats. So there's the whole kind of food issue with animals. And then there's the animal that becomes a pet. Now, we have a mutual friend, Jodie, who is a vegan, so she doesn't eat animals, and she has a friend as an animal, which is a cow. And if you ever see any of the clips with her, if she arrives in the field with the cow comes running up and dancing, because the cow's got that relationship with her since it was a calf, where like they're mates, So like in a way, it falls into that kind of pet category, where they have this relationship with each other. Whereas for other people, that would be, oh, let's get that down the butchers. Come on, and yeah, or I guess it could even be vermin if you don't like cows.
Yeah. I can't remember if we did a proper episode. I feel like we've spoken about this whole kind of eating meat stuff quite a bit recently. I'm still a meat eater, but I've cut down quite a bit. But it's a complicated thing, you know. Humans can survive without eating meat quite easily now, you know. And I'll link to Jodie's Green Vegan Instagram page in the show notes. Veganism, you know, is obviously kind of on the rise big time at the moment. But, you know, that said, humans have eaten meat of one form or another for centuries. Oh, no, sorry, millennia. So it goes way, way back.
That's what I mean about the reason human beings have survived, and pigs and dogs, and, you know, is because we'll eat anything.
Yeah.
You know, human beings will eat anything, including each other, to stay alive. You know?
But yeah, fascinating stuff. So yeah, I think I did get an answer from you there, but I mean, it's important to remember that well, the old saying about a dog's not just for Christmas and all that, it's for life. So I think, I did read up a bit in terms of the environmental cost of pets as well, which can be quite high. It's worth reading into that kind of stuff about mainly around where the food comes from to feed our pets. So I'm going to try and make sure that Cooper's a green dog or a sustainable dog and all that kind of stuff. But the mental health benefits. Go on, sorry.
I was going to say, with the food for the animals, I'm never sure about whether it is right to make a carnivore, which is what a dog is, you know, essentially a carnivore, to make it be a vegetarian or a vegan. You know, I'm not quite sure how their systems work on that.
No,
I'd have to talk to my vet friend and find out.
Let me know. Yeah, I'm keen. We got Cooper on a bit of a whim, really, and he's tiny, so I'm assuming his footprint is lower than a massive dog that you know needs lots and lots of food. But I'm keen to learn more on that front. But I mean, you're sticking to the kind of mental health benefits and the cure for loneliness. I think it's beyond question.
Yeah. But I think if all the research for any of us is if we go into nature. Nature is good for us. The pheromones and the visions and everything is there working for us. What we do when we have a pet is we bring nature into the house.
Yeah.
It's a bit like house plants, you know, which we're trying to turn our inside into the outside in a very kind of manicured way. So we want animals in and we want plants in. We want them in on our terms. We don't just let them get on with it.
Yeah.
But I think that is us connecting with nature.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I mean, you had that dog when you were at home, but you had, once you'd left home and you got married, you didn't have any animals then apart from the two guinea pigs later.
Up until now, yeah. I mean, I guess just wait. You know, we're kind of going through a stage in life now when the kids will be able to. I mean, that's something we haven't mentioned actually. The physical benefits. You know, if you've got a dog, especially, you're more likely to be out and about. You know, taking him or her for a walk once or twice a day and getting some fresh air as well, which not only do you get that physical benefit, but you're in the community, aren't you? You're meeting people, you're saying hello to other people on your walk, that kind of thing. So,
well, there is something. I mean, I have said that to people when they're in a place, maybe they're a bit older, and it's a bit strange. They don't know anybody, and it's like, get a dog and go and walk the streets. People talk to you. We were looking after Ollie Dog the other day, and Ollie Dog is a 15-year-old Bichon, and you have to take the dog pushchair with you because Ollie will walk and then he'll stop and just sit down and not do it anymore. So you have to put him in the pushchair, and then when he's had enough of the pushchair, he'll bark. So you put him out, so he'll walk a bit. So he goes in the pushchair. Yeah. But walking down through the main little towny village here of Morton, and I've got him in the pushchair, and the amount of women who stopped and end up chatting with you and like looking at the dog and playing with the dog in the pushchair, and I'm thinking that this dog's a babe magnet. You know, if you want to meet women, just get yourself a dog and a pushchair. You're fine.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Good shout. That's. I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously we're spoken for, aren't we? But yeah. I mean, I know Cooper's going to be a massive hit on the school run when we start walking
Yeah,
him when he's allowed to go out for walks. So
yeah,
yeah. Just great for getting to know people, isn't it? And just starting up conversations.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, very often dogs will come up to you anyway, and people are usually going, "Oh, I'm sorry about their dog," and I'm going, "No, it's fine because I like dogs and I
Yeah.
usually get on well with dogs."
Yeah. Not everyone does. You know, you kind of. You know, I know. And some dogs are get a bit excitable, but
Hmm.
again, that's just kind
Yeah,
of forces those little interactions between you and other people, doesn't it? To kind of
hmm.
find boundaries and get to know people and how people work, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And we were down on the seafront last night having a meal in the van, and I just watching people walking their dogs, and there were people playing with dogs, and then you could see people meeting up and chatting, and their dogs were kind of doing the same thing. The dogs were chatting. It was interesting to watch the interactions going on. Yeah.
Nice. Cool. All right, cool. What's your resource of the week, Sean?
Mine is a book called The Secret Language of Dogs, which is nice because you're starting to look at what is it the dogs are actually saying to each other, but what they're saying to you, and what could you be saying to your dog using kind of gestures in the same way that the guy was talking about with the big Malamutes could control them, just like the nod of the head, that kind of thing, and they knew what he was saying. Yeah.
Cool.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Good. I'll link to a few movies, pet-based movies that I've off the top of my head. So there's Marley and Me, which is a good tearjerker, a good little family movie. Secret Life of Pets is a good animated one, and I watched Turner and Hooch quite recently, an old Tom Hanks movie, which is where the dog's like a detective. So that's cool. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Sean. I'll see you again next week, eh?
Yeah. You take care.
Take care, everyone.
See ya.
See you later. Bye. See ya.